All right. It is Selection Tuesday. Got the college football playoff top 25 coming out. Don't really expect much movement today, not going to lie.
Yeah, it's last week was pretty chalky. Obviously a lot of people say that it was the SEC cupcake week. So not much movement from the SEC teams there. We'll see if maybe Oregon gets a little bit of a nod for the win over USC. I thought that was pretty impressive. Their special teams really, made the difference in that game compared to USC's, and a couple crucial mistakes for the Trojans. I was kind of high on them, but they had every opportunity to win that game, and then Oregon ultimately pulled it out. And so maybe they'll get a little bit of a nod up, maybe a spot or two.
That was definitely the most impressive complete game that I had seen out of Oregon this year, and so
Yeah,
I'll give it to them. I mean, they dropped 42. They didn't make a ton of mistakes. I mean, pick from Dante Moore, but outside of that, I thought that was a relatively clean game out of Oregon, and they seemed to sustain their their intensity over 4 quarters. And
yeah, that was kind of what I expected out of them all year, and it seems like they might have found it at the right time. Now we'll see if USC, USC is a little bit of a tough team to kind of judge too as well. I kind of compared them to somebody like TCU out of the Big 12, where you never know what you're going to get with them each week. But yeah, very impressive for Morgan.
no, I feel like USC is very reliant on Jordan Maeva. I have noticed that they're very reliant on him. To where
Absolutely.
I look at their chart on Saturday. They have him throw 43 times, and I know they ran the ball less than that, and so they're very reliant on him. Which yes, it forced him into making mistakes at times because I think that he had to press after a while, and you're playing a very well coached, very talented defense in Oregon too, and so it doesn't always lead to the best result there. I mean, he got picked twice in that game, and I think I hope that Jordan Maeva stays another year because I think that USC can be legitimately good next year. They beef up that running back room a little bit, so I think that USC has a better trajectory than any of us expected at the end of this year.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. And another game that I was kind of, a little bit stunned by was it really looked like BYU was really let out of the bag a little bit with Cincinnati. Cincinnati's kicker missed a ton of kicks, and BYU just didn't look very impressive. So we'll see.
Now, I mean, BYU has had a few games this year where they don't seem to put it together completely, and I think a lot has to do with having like a freshman inexperienced quarterback. I think they're overly reliant on their run game, and
Yeah,
offensively, they're just shoddy. They're not predictable. You never know what you're going to get out of them, and so I'm expecting the rematch with Texas Tech here in a few weeks, and I think you're going to get a similar result out of that. All right, Arizona has entered the rankings.
very well deserving.
That yes, they have slowly gotten better each and every week this year. Pitt has entered the rankings, and so has SMU at the right time.
Interesting. So two ACC teams and a Big 12 team kind of round out the top 25.
And
I'm
we got
very
Tulane.
and Tulane as well, which you would assume that they're going to be the group of five, the highest ranked group of five team. Um, I'd like to see maybe North Texas. I know you have to rank the top 25 best teams, but I'd just like to see where they have North Texas as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're going to beef them up. I don't know if they're going to penalize them for just losing their head coach today. I mean, I know it sounds like the committee is open to that. All right, Arizona State up 5 spots. They're having a little end of season heater. Unfortunately, of too many losses this year.
Yeah,
Tennessee 19, Virginia, USC drops 2 spots.
yeah, and that's you got to drop them, but they played well enough to kind of hold their ranking.
Yeah, they're you go up to Autzen, you play Oregon, you lose that game. I mean, they kept it close for a lot of it. It was multiple possessions a couple times, but it was never a complete blowout. And so
And I don't know
I
if I don't know if I would necessarily move Texas up ahead of them. I guess it doesn't really matter, but they're both similar, both very similar teams.
I mean
Here comes the
Texas.
maize and blue.
Do you think? Okay, hold on. I was going to ask a question, but we got all right. Yeah, Mason Blue is 15 going into the Ohio State game here.
Trying to pad Ohio State's resume a little bit.
Of course, because why not? Do
I
you?
think the absence of Justice Haynes is going to be crucial for them. So
Yeah, because he's a guy that's good for a couple explosive plays, and they've been very reliant on him offensively, and with him not being in the game plan, I don't really know if their offense has much of an
does,
identity.
does Michigan make the playoffs with a win over Ohio State? That's the question.
I think that's a strong argument. Absolutely,
They're ahead of where I thought they would be.
I
Vandy,
was not expecting 9 wins this year. I thought that was a 7-5 team.
yeah,
All
Vandy,
right,
man.
Vandy stays at 14.
They're on the road at Knoxville this week, trying to win at a place they haven't won in a long time, and Pavia had a senior day. We'll see if that's actually his senior day or not, but yeah,
They better let his ass play past. I mean, he's our age.
Utah Utah drops needed a miracle and against Kansas State.
I'm
Um,
not gonna lie. I would have dropped them. I would have dropped them below Vanderbilt.
I'm with
Past them
I'm
games have
with
not
you.
been great.
There's Miami creeping up there.
They moved up one spot. They're starting to. Miami was a point of contention last year, and it looks like they're gonna be another point of contention this year as
Is
well. They've got
does
Pitt this week.
Miami does Miami have a chance to make the ACC title game?
It's looking like SMU and Virginia is gonna be the lock,
Oh, good Lord.
unless anything, unless anything crazy happens. It's looking like SMU Virginia is gonna be it.
Oh dear God,
Which
save
I don't know
everybody's
how
soul.
SMU climbed back into this.
Save everybody's soul that has to watch that game.
Yeah, that's. I'm not gonna lie. That's gonna be a rough one. That's definitely just the way that the seeding and the conference records fell out this year. They have a okay. I I I would have dropped them. I
BYU?
would have put Miami at 11.
Yeah, BYU. Like we mentioned earlier, just not a really impressive performance on the road at Cincinnati, but
No,
I think that it'll take care of itself.
I think Texas Tech will take care of it in Arlington.
I agree.
If I had to speculate, that's what I think is going to happen. All right, but before we get into the top 10 here, do you think that Texas, if Texas beats A&M enough on Friday by a wide enough margin, do you think they still have a chance?
Absolutely not. I think they're eliminated.
Yeah, the
I would
Georgia
put
loss is tough.
I think three. I have a hard time believing a team with 3 losses can get into the playoffs, no matter how good or how bad your losses are.
I just don't think you deserve it.
No, you do not deserve it. I think Texas is. I think that's kind of the threshold of them, and USC are kind of the threshold of teams. I think Michigan is the only team is where it starts, where like these teams legitimately have a spot to get in.
Yeah, that's like that's your border right there, USC, and anything in Michigan, like anything beyond that, we still have a chance. Utah still has a chance. BYU still has a chance. All right, Alabama, Notre Dame. I mean, nothing was going to change there. Notre
Notre
Dame fans would tell me how impressive that win over Syracuse was, and it was great. But I'm not gonna go shout from the mountaintops either. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, Syracuse. Syracuse is not a very notable team right now on their third quarterback of the year.
Yeah, Syracuse's season has fallen apart. I mean, you should be a team like that. All right, Oklahoma's there at 8. And
Will
I
we
mean,
see Oregon at 7?
I would think about moving them up a spot, but I would. It's also once you get above Oregon, it's so condensed at the top to where it's tough to get any movement. I mean, if I were to do this, hold on. I have to get it. Now, if you were to do like a power rankings type thing, I think I'd have Georgia up at number 2.
Yeah, see, you're very high on Georgia. I'm still a little bullish on them in a way. I I think that Georgia is hitting their stride, but I'm not sold that Texas is a great team. It was
I feel
obviously
that.
impressive. It's obviously impressive what they did, but Georgia has some very glaring flaws that I don't know if they've completely fixed. I will say this though, Gunnar Stockton has really turned around my opinion on him throughout the year.
He's exceeded my expectations. All right. So the thing that was talked about on College Game Day happened. They did drop Ole Miss a spot after not losing a game, and so
Yeah, Ole Miss. Ole
that
Miss
okay.
is so yeah. Ole Miss is kind of been a victim of other teams' wins recently.
Other teams wins, and then their own internal situation right now too.
Yeah, they got to figure that out very quickly. You don't want to be in a position where there's a lot of uncertainty, and the Egg Bowl is a game that you know you you don't need any more uncertainty going around your program.
No, because I mean, and that's the first game we're talking about tonight, and so going into that is terrifying. Not knowing who your next head coach is going to be because that is a trap game. You are playing the best 5 and 6 team in the country
Yeah,
on Friday.
I agree. They
They've
did get
lost some damn heartbreakers.
and you know that they've prepared for 2 weeks for Ole Miss.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, they want blood. Alabama and Ole Miss and Oxford would be in the first round. I could not that. Oh, I would want that so badly.
Please, 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 give us an SEC team. We want to play an SEC team.
Give us Joe Judge.
Yeah, give us give us. We Alabama is such a weird case. I think that this Alabama team, is just one of the stranger cases of the college football playoffs because on one side of the coin, you look at their resume and it's extremely impressive, but they just have these moments where the team just completely lacks discipline and effort at times. So they're just, you never know what you're going to get with Alabama, which is a strange thing to say.
the the potential of this team, I think, is very high, but there are a lot of self inflicted wounds, and that is the argument of Notre Dame being above Alabama that I can get down with. Like Alabama can't run the ball consistently. Ty Simpson's been in a slump recently. I understand and acknowledge those things. Notre Dame has looked better. It's just it's unfortunate that you have the schedule that Alabama that has to play. And you get the accolades that they've had throughout the year, and then after one game, losing it by 2 points to a top 15 team, you're getting dropped 6 spots. It's a really unfortunate spot to be. I wouldn't drop them that far, but I also when you look above that, you know, I can't put them above Oregon right now. You can't put them above
No,
Ole Miss right now. You can't put them above Texas Tech, and so it's really, and I understand the argument of Notre Dame being above Alabama. I don't agree with it, but I understand the thought process of why that is.
I'm right there with you. Like you can't put the right now Alabama's resume is not better than a lot of the teams ahead of them. So even with all the good wins
No,
and the head to head over Georgia.
it's a weird, it's a really weird, really finicky spot to be in, and so it puts them in a position this weekend where everything is on the Iron Bowl. I mean, if you win on Saturday, like it really comes down to that. You win on Saturday, I don't think Alabama has much to worry about.
Yes, agreed.
You lose, and that's why it's so big is you lose, and I think the conversation around Kalen DeBoer starts to heat up a little bit. Obviously, I can make a move at the end of the season, but 9-3, 2 seasons in a row, missing the playoff, losing
That
to Auburn, it's going to lead to some very uncomfortable conversations in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, and losing to Auburn to lose your playoff bid is a nightmare scenario for any Alabama head coach, unless your name is Nick Saban.
Oh, absolutely it is. Well, it wouldn't happen with him. But no, absolutely it is. It's terrifying. But I've also, as an Alabama fan, I've kind of blocked out the noise, and I'm trying to lock in on this game
Just win the
as much as
game.
possible. Win the game, win the damn game. So to do the fundamental things well.
All you got to do is win the game.
So I'm fired up. We have a litany of games this weekend of incredible games. We picked our 6 best for tonight that
Yes.
we're going to predict here. Um, we're going to start with perhaps the game with the most intriguing storylines going into it, maybe outside of the Iron Bowl. Um, but there's a lot going around this thing right now. Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Of course, the decision on Lane Kiffin will be announced after this game, and so that is hanging over the Ole Miss players and staff and organization. Do I think that's fair? No. But that's the situation that for how well this team has played. I don't think that's very fair at all. But that's the situation that they find themselves in, and they're going into one of the most ominous places they could possibly think of, and that is Starkville, Mississippi, with all those damn cowbells. And you're playing the best 5-6 team in college football, and a team that would love nothing more but to send Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin packing on the same day. So this really intrigues me. Ole Miss feels like they're on thin ice, despite having such a great season, just with the circumstances they're facing. And Starkville, Mississippi State, they can make this a lot more sloppy. So, Luke, what do you think about this game?
I think that like you mentioned, a lot of times you want to deep dive into stats and everything that goes along with it, but with rivalry week, you kind of throw all that out the window, and you got to realize
Yeah,
that this Mississippi State team and this program hasn't had a lot to play for recently, and now you've got a chance to go to the bowl game in your own home, and you've got Lane Kiffin that you could potentially send him, your rival's maybe best coach ever, send him away with it, and obviously, it's one of the hardest places to play in the SEC. Every place is
oh
hard
yeah,
in the SEC, but State has the artificial noisemakers. Now, I'm not gonna harp on that a little bit as an Alabama fan. I love to harp on that. I've been to Mississippi State before. It gets loud. The bells are loud, and they're always ready to and fired up for Ole Miss. And you know what? They've been trolled on Twitter enough by Lane Kiffin, and so we'll see how that goes. I do think that Ole Miss is more talented by far. I mean, then this one of the most talented teams in the country. For me, I think that Mississippi State comes out hot. They're going to be motivated, but I think Ole Miss ultimately does pull it out in a close one. I think this is going to be a higher scoring game. A lot of crazy things happening. Maybe some key turnovers for Mississippi State. Ole Miss, they do force a little bit. Their secondary is 50-50 half the time,
yeah.
but I'm going to go with Ole Miss to win this game 31-24. A late fourth down stop for the Rebels gets it done.
I like that pick. We're going with the same teams here. I'm going with Ole Miss in the spot too. They're favored by 7 as of right now. Vegas likes the Rebs, and I like them 26-17 as well. I think they're gonna have a bit of a matchup issue, like you're saying, with the secondary with Brennan Thompson, one of the fastest wide receivers in college football. I love how hard Fluff Bothwell runs too. I
Oh,
mean,
love
he's
them, man. South
that
Alabama
guy,
transfer right there.
South Alabama guy. I love it. Um, but I think that Mississippi State's going to throw the kitchen sink at them in this
Oh,
game. Like
absolutely.
I think they're going to pull some crazy shit. I think they're going to play very intense. But at the end of the day, I like Ole Miss to pull this off.
Yeah, I think we kind of have a similar thought process here. I think Ole Miss knows what's coming, and I think Ole Miss's fan base knows what's coming. So, yeah, I'm right there with you.
Now, before we go to Georgia Tech, clean old fashioned hate, I want to ask what do you think is going to be the verdict after this game? Just out of curiosity.
For Lane Kiffin,
Mm-hmm.
I think he's gonna stay. I I don't know though. He's in a bidding war. Right? I go back and forth on this every single day. Um, Last Saturday, I was completely convinced that he was gone. And all these reports are coming out that Ole Miss is offering or LSU is offering him an insane contract with $25 million to build a roster with. As a coach, you usually go where you think you can win the most, and it seems like Ole Miss is able to match it. Maybe not to the extent, but they are willing to keep it. I I go back and forth on it right now. Right now, my gut tells me that he's going to see. I can't even make a decision. I'm going to say I'm going to go with Leaves. I'll go with Leaves.
I think the right move is to stay. I mean, I made a video about it yesterday. I think that the
I
right
agree.
move is to stay. I think he's building something special. I think there's a lot of momentum behind this program right now. I don't really know why you'd want to leave it, and especially when I look at the other two. If you're going somewhere and it is a clear upgrade, it is a clear step up. I can agree with that. There's some shady shit going on right now with
This
LSU Brian Kelly situation, and if I'm Lane Kiffin, I'm looking at that and saying, I don't know if I really want to get involved with that.
this is such a weird scenario too, because I don't know if I've ever seen report of like a school is offered making their coach give them an ultimatum the day after a rivalry game while their team is squarely in contention. I've never seen this before. And I would like to think that I'm obviously not in depth in the program, but I would like to think that Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin have a pretty solid relationship with what he's built there. So I think the right move for him is also to stay. Um, will Lane Kiffin have the right? Does Lane Kiffin make the right move all the time? I'm not sure about that.
He's been known for sloppy exits, and so
Yes, he has.
historically, it would tell you that he's going to leave. But
Yeah.
hopefully at this point, Ole Miss is my second favorite team, and so hopefully at this point, he stays his ass in Oxford.
Yeah. Hey, I would love nothing more than for Lane Kiffin to stay. I think he's great, great at Ole Miss, and I think Ole Miss really fits him as like a character personality in a way.
I think he's a fantastic match at the university, the program. I can't picture him at the other two. I can see him at Ole Miss, and so I just hope that's taken into account.
Yes, I'm with you.
All right, it's clean old fashioned hate time. We're going east to the state of Georgia, and this was a game that I had circled all year. Georgia and Georgia Tech after what we saw last year, the 8 overtime classic. Georgia seems to be one of the hottest teams in the country right now. I know you and I aren't seeing completely eye to eye on them right now. I just think
Yes.
they get better every week. But they do have some flaws. But I will say Georgia Tech is coming off of an absolutely devastating loss at home to Pitt. I didn't picture them losing that game in a million years, and I
Yeah.
was shocked that with control of going to the ACC championship in their hands, that they blew that as bad as they did against Pitt. I was, and credit to Pitt, had a great game plan, executed on it. Great job by Pat Narduzzi at staff, those players going in there into the A and getting that done. Never saw it coming in a million years. And so, I think we both went Tech last week, and
Yes.
we were both wrong. And so, props to the Pitt Panthers for that. Well, you got Georgia traveling to Atlanta, where this game is going to be every year, year on out, moving on after this, which is unfortunate. Georgia Tech's
Yeah.
ACC
Fuck that.
championship. Yeah, I hate that. These rivalries need to be back and forth. I don't even like Georgia and Florida being in Jacksonville. Like, just come to the campuses.
Yeah.
But you've got Georgia Tech's ACC championship hopes scrapped. Georgia needs to win this thing to have a chance to go to Atlanta, because it's a three-way race between A&M, Bama, and Georgia right now. A couple of different scenarios that can pan out. I think that Haynes King is a dynamic threat. I liked him this season, but the one thing I'll acknowledge about him, he's very turnover prone, and I think that could be a huge issue in this game right here. Georgia in a must-win spot. They're finally getting that edge rush going. They're finally getting that run defense going, which I think is great going against a team like Georgia Tech, who specializes in that with the Haynes duo. But Georgia is favored by 13.5 to win this game. I think they win. I think they cover. I like them 38-20.
We saw last year how this game went in that thrilling overtime just battle where you just never thought it was going to end and no team could score, and then eventually one team got in. That costly Haynes King fumble at the end of the game allowed it to get there. That would have been one of the bigger upsets in college football last year if had Georgia Tech had pulled it off. I really knew I kind of said this. I forget where I said this last week, but I said you have been Nardunced, the Pat Narduzzi special, of where somehow, some way, he says something that nobody likes. Oh, we're not preparing for Notre Dame, and then his team comes out and blitzkriegs Georgia Tech on their own home field. And I was very disappointed in Georgia Tech. Obviously, now they made a comeback opportunity. You know, I think that pick six by King on the goal line was the real dagger. And for me, that's what I worry about with Georgia Tech against Georgia. Are they going to be able to make the right? Is King going to be able to make the right decisions under pressure? Is he going to be able to throw the ball against this Georgia team? are they going to be able to establish enough of a run game to have a balanced attack against Georgia outside of Haynes King? Because the man cannot do it all. He has played. This will be his 12th game of doing everything by himself. So
Yeah.
the wear and tear on this guy's body has to be. I mean, if you're playing NCAA football, the whole graphic has to be just bright red right now. He's got to have 8 different issues. He's probably going to have 6 different surgeries. Not actually. I'm not praying for that by any means, but I'm just using that as an analogy to illustrate his workload. But for me, I think that Georgia has improved. Obviously, I mentioned previously I'm still a little bit bullish on them, and for that reason, I think that Georgia Tech does cover in this game. You know, I think they've got a little bit extra motivation coming off of a loss. And I think that they cover. I think Georgia escapes with a win narrowly, and I think that this game is going to have a lot of ball control, and it's going to really be a possession by possession game. I'm going to go Georgia to win this game, 30-27. I think they just escape, but I think that maybe I don't think that it's going to be super scary for Georgia fans. I think that 27 might come late for Georgia Tech, and they might provide like a little last gasp scare.
So kind of like the Pitt game.
Yeah, exactly like the Pitt game where they I think they might start a little bit faster. I assume Brent Key would make that a focal point of practice this week. But
Yeah.
if you're Georgia Tech, you've still got a ton to play for. You got to beat your rival. You haven't beaten Georgia in a long time, so go get it done. Go show this program is on the right track. So just go get it done.
Oh, I love Georgia Tech's trajectory, and I think that this year was, I mean, you've seen steady progress under Brent Key, and so that's something that as a program you have to embrace. But when you look at that offense, like you're saying, very reliant on Haynes King. I mean, he was that entire offense this year, and so
Yeah.
I hope it's something that gets evaluated by the next level. I know he's been turnover prone. A lot of it has to do with the fact that he's forcing it and just trying to make shit happen, and that's just what's going to happen after a while, and so.
And I wonder what Eric Singleton is thinking. If they had Eric Singleton, I think that this team would have been a real contender. I think that offense would have been borderline unstoppable. He's at Auburn now.
Yeah.
That's one of those things where I don't think Singleton's had the year that he expected to have, and obviously him not being at Georgia Tech hurts.
Yeah, I think that he would have had more success staying right where he was at, because obviously, probably going to miss a bowl game with Auburn. And so, but this team, you'd be pursuing a spot in Charlotte, pursuing a spot in the CFP, and, worst comes to worst, you're still playing in a good bowl, a decent bowl game. And so, it's definitely something you look at and reflect on after the season. But in this spot right here, I do like Georgia to pull this off. The last game for Friday here we're going to talk about here is down in Austin, Texas. Texas A&M in Texas. I feel like I've had a very good feel for Texas this year. I haven't picked many games wrong for them. The Florida loss, the Oklahoma win, the Vandy win. I bet the Georgia loss. We've both been kind of spot on with Texas for a lot of these games here. I look at this game and yes,
I think we're gonna go different directions here.
really.
I do.
Let's see.
Keep going. I don't want to interrupt you, but I think that's my prediction.
I'm curious the prediction about the prediction. All right, Texas A&M doesn't really need to win this game. Like, they're most likely going to Atlanta either way. Texas does need the win to keep any CFP hopes alive. Again, like we said earlier, I think they're shot. Maybe they can have style points here. They can have an argument with this, the Vanderbilt win, the Oklahoma win. They may have somewhat of an argument. A&M has played with fire multiple times this season, right? The Arkansas game, the Auburn game, South Carolina, being down 30-3 at home at one point. I love the interior of this A&M defense. I think they can get beat over the top, though. I mean, you saw Nick Harbor do it with South Carolina. You saw Omega Blake do it with Arkansas Razorbacks. And it's been an up and down year for Texas. I mean, haven't really seen any complete games out of this team. A lot of their wins coming late in the third and fourth quarter, and even overtime against Mississippi State and Kentucky. The Vanderbilt game, great in the first half. Second half, kind of slacked off. Being at home, and a huge in-state rivalry game. We've all been asking ourselves, when are we going to see a complete game of Texas Longhorns football? I think it's going to be right here. Texas is favored by 2.5 to win this game. Vegas likes the Horns, and I like the Horns to win this game at DKR. I like them to win a shootout, 41-35.
So I knew we were going to go different directions here because for me, I just take this Texas team. I have a lot of problems, really believing in them and believing that they can really sustain any offense that will be able to kind of carry them in a game like this in a high-powered matchup between really, I think, one team that I really think that this at the beginning of the year you would have thought that these two teams would have been flipped and the A&M
Yes.
would have been playing for their playoff lives and Texas would have already kind of secured a spot, maybe even in the SEC championship. Obviously, this offense is for Texas is very sluggish and it's very surprising too. I thought Wingo was going to be maybe an offensive player of the year in the SEC. He's just got all the intangibles that you want in a wide receiver. The Texas run game hasn't been great. It's gotten a little bit better over the past few weeks. And then when you look at A&M, Marcel Reed, maybe the most dynamic dual threat quarterback in the country. He should go to New York, and for good reason. They really did struggle with South Carolina, which was just shocking, but made the biggest comeback in school history to beat them. And I think that just kind of shows you exactly what Texas A&M is as a team. They're resilient. They're at times kind of sloppy, but as an overall team, they're very disciplined. And they're under Mike Elko. We both were extremely high on, even I think a year and a half ago when he was hired. Both of us really thought that he was going to take this team to a different level. And so for me, I think that it doesn't stop here, and I think A&M finishes 12-0 in the regular season before going to Atlanta, and they do it with a statement win at Texas. I just don't think Texas can keep up with Texas A&M, and I think Texas A&M is just a more well-rounded team. Give me the Aggies in a higher scoring game as well, 34-31 over the Longhorns in Austin.
That's understandable. I think it's a very logical pick. I can see that if A&M wins this game, I'm not shocked. No, I
Right.
pick Texas here, but if you told me A&M won Friday night, Saturday morning, I wouldn't be surprised in the least bit because, they're going to get theirs with Mario Craver and Concepcion. Like I
Yes.
know that's going to be the case, and I love you giving love to Marcel Reed too because I don't think that's given enough, which blows my mind. Everybody's so fixated on Pavia that I don't think that this guy gets enough love at all. And so, the show might take the opportunity to say Marcel Reed doing a damn good job. Keep it up, and he continues to. And what's great for A&M is he's not going anywhere.
No,
He'll be
not at
staying
all.
here next year, and the future, regardless of what happens this year with the Aggies, the future is very, 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 very bright. First
Not
12-0
great for the
season.
rest of us.
Not great for the rest of us because now this machine that has been talk about being developed for years is actually finally coming into fruition. Which
It's like they completed the Death Star.
the Death Star has been being built for probably 5 decades now, and it looks like it's now finally ready to take off.
Yep, I'm with you.
Now let's go back up north again to the Volunteer State.
I love
And
this matchup, man. I am so happy. Before we get started, I just want to say I am so happy that this matchup is not a throwaway game, like it
yeah,
used to be. This is one of the more intriguing matchups of the week, I think. But carry on.
no, this has been like that for my entire life, pretty much. I don't know how many times I've actually flicked this game on.
Yeah.
To watch on Rivalry Weekend because it's either they've both been irrelevant or Tennessee's just going to beat the shit out of them. Like it's that's what's been the past several years. But now you look at it and there was a lot on the line here. Pavia talked a lot of shit about Vanderbilt being the best team in Tennessee, and he wants to prove it against the Vols. And the Vols have the opportunity to slam the door in the face of Vanderbilt when it comes to their CFP chances. And I think they're taking this shit personally. And so Vanderbilt's in that same spot like Texas of where they got to win this and keep it alive. Win, they have an argument. Lose, it's cooked.
Yeah.
I think that Vandy's defense is great up front, great at generating pressure, great at stopping the run. But that secondary can get exposed, and Tennessee's got some dogs in that secondary. Or in that with their receiving core. You're talking Chris Brazel, Braylon Staley, and they'll get back on path this weekend. Miles Kitzelman, former Alabama guy. He's been excellent this year as well. I'm expecting another shootout here, kind of like the Texas A&M game. Tennessee, they've got the same line at home that Texas had. And I like the same result here. I like Tennessee to win 45-35.
I'm definitely with you on the higher scoring action, and it's been a long time since Vanderbilt has beaten Tennessee in Knoxville. Vanderbilt looked very impressive last week against a very much maligned Kentucky team and a much maligned Kentucky defense at times. So I won't take too much into that result. For Tennessee, they have 3 losses, but when I went back and looked at their record and kind of their whole body of work, you sit there and you're like, Tennessee is really just a few plays away from being squarely in the college football playoff conversation and about 10 spots higher in the rankings. And I really like how this team has performed. Going into the swamp is no easy task. They obliterated Florida, didn't even give them a chance in that game. I think the line was 3.5 for that game. Tennessee was up 28-0 before you could even snap your fingers. Vanderbilt is an odd case, like you said. They're decent up front, but they can really get exposed. And the Tennessee wide receiver core is just, they've really improved this year. And I'm not gonna say their receiving core as a whole has improved because they have been great for a few years now. Going back to even like Jalen Hyatt was really like one of the first big players that they had that really kind of changed the culture of Tennessee. But in terms of the guys that they have this year, a lot of guys have really stepped up in a position that was really kind of a question mark at the start of the year. For Tennessee, I like them to win here too. I completely agree with everything you said. You kind of hit the nail on the head right there with this matchup, and I like Tennessee to win in a higher scoring matchup as well. I'm going to go Tennessee 38, Vanderbilt 30.
Well, you look at that, and I like what you said about Tennessee too, because there's even a couple teams that are in the playoff field right now that I look at and compare to Tennessee, and I'm like, if they're to play them, how would it fare? The Georgia Bulldogs are one of them, because
Yeah,
I'm telling you that I love going back and rewatching that game because if just and I know it sounds so cliche, but if just a couple plays went a different way, Tennessee was winning this entire game. We're having a totally different conversation about both teams right now, and Tennessee's plague has been turnovers this year, and I love Joey Aguilar. I think he's been an upgrade from Nico. And given that whole situation, I'm very happy that he has, because I think Joey Aguilar is an excellent guy. I think he's a great leader. I think he's a hard worker. This is all coming from a Bama fan, too, saying just great things about Tennessee. Josh Heupel, probably the best coaching job that we've seen in college football this year. I'm having this team at,
yeah.
what is it, 8 wins right now is incredible. I mean, I think we're talking 7-5, 8-4. So just the fact that he has them here with everything that happened in the offseason is amazing. I think I can't say enough. That program, the Vols program, is on a great trajectory right now, and they're not going anywhere. As much as I love Joey Aguilar, the turnovers have been a plague. I mean, the Oklahoma game, 3 picks. The Alabama game, the pick 6. That's what hurt them in those games. But the Bama game got lopsided after a while, but that Oklahoma one, if that one went a couple different ways, having a totally different conversation right now. And so I think that this is a 3-loss team that could easily be a 1-loss team right now in Tennessee. And a Tennessee team that I think is straight up better than Vanderbilt. And I like them in the spot because of that.
Yeah, and some of those turnovers have come from their inability to protect Joey Aguilar at times, and that seems to be a common problem for a lot of teams across the country right now. Tennessee just hasn't been as lucky to escape with wins. The ball hasn't bounced their way as much as they'd hope, and so for that reason they're sitting at 3 losses, and it's kind of a disappointing season. But I believe Joey Aguilar applied in that same lawsuit against the NCAA to get another year. I could be wrong. But I think he's trying to get another year of eligibility. So we'll see if he's able to come back for Tennessee next year. If he is, there'll be a dangerous team again.
He deserves it. I think I think Aguilar deserves it. If I could pick and choose, except Aguilar, deny Pavia. He's had his run.
Get
He's had his
Pavia
time.
out of here.
Get him the hell out of here at this point. So that's that's where I'm at with this one. I like Tennessee here. Now this one we've got the game on Saturday morning per usual. Always a Thanksgiving tradition here. These two teams absolutely fucking hate each other.
Yeah. They won't even say each other's names.
They won't even say each other's names. I mean, this is a little story here. My dad was at the 1-2 game in '06, and he wore a blue pullover in Columbus, Ohio. No affiliation with anybody. Got heckled and shit by Ohio State fans the entire time, and so it just shows you how deeply rooted this game is. And now this one in particular, I don't know what you've seen this week, but I feel like that the general consensus is that Ohio State is just going to get into this game and absolutely roll and get the revenge from last year. And I'm going to push back against that a little bit because keep in mind, Michigan does own Ohio State. They've won this game the past 4 years. Ohio State has not beaten this team this decade. And so, it's you're going on the road here. It's going to be a challenging game, and both Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are questionable, but so is Justice Haynes, and that is not a huge, but the biggest components of this Michigan offense here. He's been their lifeblood this entire year. Don't really know what their identity is going to be without them. I can tell they just don't put much of an emphasis on the offensive side of the ball under Sharon Moore, which I think it's something that kind of has to start to change here if Michigan wants to ever get back to the spot that they were in before these past several years with Harbaugh. He's one of the greatest coaches to ever do it, too, so it's a crazy standard to compare it to, but if you want to get back there, that's an adjustment that has to be made. I think this game is close to start. Ohio State's favored by 10.5, but I think that Ohio State does go up to Ann Arbor and get their revenge after they planted the flag on their logo on their field last year. I like Ohio State to win. I like them to just barely cover 28-17.
Yeah, Ohio, this rivalry is obviously one of the best in the nation. Probably the second best rivalry in the nation behind just the Iron Bowl, which is a lot of people will hate it, but it's just true. For me, this game is going to be a defensive slugfest. Two heavyweight defenses that both will limit your space, and Smith with all the questionable players. First of all, you're not going to get them at 100% if they're questionable. Ohio State, I think they at times, they get real stagnant on the offensive side of the ball, and their defense kind of bails them out. Michigan is a team that is for most of the game usually stagnant on offense, although they have looked better. I think Bryce Underwood is going to be an absolute stud in a few years. He just kind of hasn't it hasn't clicked all the way with him, which I'm going to be fair to him because he's a freshman quarterback in the Big Ten. But yeah, this game, I just don't see Michigan's ability to generate enough offense against this vaunted Ohio State defense. One of the better defenses we've seen in a while. I mean, really, they're super impressive, and nobody wants to go up against a defense like this. I'm with you in terms of kind of a lower scoring game, 10.5 points. I do think Michigan covers. I think that they get that 10.5, and I think that Ohio State wins in a very, very low scoring game, 20-13.
To me, just like last year, 13 to
Yeah,
10, 2013. I mean, we're talking lower scoring games here, and they are two very stingy defenses. It's gonna be a very physical game. It's gonna be a very cold game, and I love that. That's at this time of year. It's great Big Ten football. I'm in for. We've got an intense rivalry here, and I like you giving Bryce Underwood some grace here as well because I know we talked about a little bit going into the season. His receiving core wasn't that great, so getting separation is going to be an issue for them all year. The more he stays there, the more Michigan can really hit the recruiting trail this upcoming cycle here, bringing some receivers up to Ann Arbor, and even hit the transfer
yeah.
portal a little bit after the season once that opens up. I think that's something that they really have to do if they want to get the most out of Bryce Underwood. But they're a great program, and I think they'll get that done here as well. I have full confidence. But in this spot here, I like Ohio State to finally pull it off.
Yeah,
finally.
I'm right. Yes, they will get their revenge in Ann Arbor.
Now it's time. It's time to play the game.
Oh Lord.
It's time to talk about the Iron Bowl. And as an Alabama fan, is this spot a little bit nerve wracking? Going into Jordan Hare, going into the Haunted Plains? Absolutely.
But yeah,
You're facing when all of your SEC championship and CFP hopes are leveraged on a game against Auburn on the road. If this was in Tuscaloosa, I'd be feeling a lot better. In Auburn, yes, it's very nerve wracking. Auburn has been moving the ball a lot better since BJ Durkin has become their interim head coach, and they made the switch to Ashton Daniels. They've just been moving the ball a lot better. Finally, seeing what this Auburn team could have potentially been if they made that switch earlier. I'm looking back at it. I think a lot of their issues really might have been Jackson Arnold, as you saw with Oklahoma last year. So it's just intriguing to think about. But I've probably been hearing a lot of chatter about this game too, right? And so, you know, obviously the Oklahoma game happens, and this game starts to get teed up of everything for Alabama lies on this game. And the past two matchups have been very close. One went to overtime. One was an absolute miracle. I'll be honest. I think we got bailed out in that game against Auburn the last time, but it was a miracle. It was a great memory. Both of those times, I think Alabama was kind of overlooking that Auburn game as, kind of a sorry team we're playing. Let's go in and get this win. And Auburn said, oh, hell no. No, you're going out to the Haunted Plains, very ready to play. We're not just another team we're going to roll over. I think this time around, we've had 2 weeks here, right? Had the Eastern Illinois game in between. So we've had 2 weeks of chatter about Alabama and Auburn here. I think the expectation is baked in for this Alabama team, what you're going to get out of Auburn. I think everybody's expecting Alabama to go into this game and struggle and crash and burn, and Auburn's going to take advantage of them. There's a little bit of reverse psychology going on here. I think Alabama's going to go in prepared and laser focused. Ty's been in a slump these past couple weeks. Didn't look great against LSU. Didn't look great against Oklahoma at times. A great quarterback like Ty is eventually going to find a way out of a slump. And I think he's going to in this spot right here. Don't love Alabama's run game right now. And I think they'll continue to be a struggle point, which could ultimately end up holding Alabama back later down the line. But in this spot here, I'll be honest, I acknowledge the fragility of the situation. I acknowledge how volatile it is for Alabama. But Alabama's favored by 6.5, and I like the Tide to cover, 31-23 on Saturday night.
yeah. Obviously, nobody wants to go play their rival on the road with a chance to go to the college football playoff, and especially when you have the haunted plains and the memories that the Alabama fan base has on the road at Auburn. But you lose to Oklahoma, and you're right back in that situation that you've always been in, where you beat Auburn, you get into the playoffs. All you gotta do is go in there and win the game. It doesn't matter how you do it; just win the game. And for me, I think that this Alabama defense is one of the less talked about storylines in all of college football. The improvement from week one against FSU, where they were just gashed on the run by Tommy Castellanos and just really looked like didn't even want to be out there. And now you've seen the emergence of guys like Yanze Pierre, Hill Green. The secondary looks good. Dijon Lee, true freshman, got another interception last week. So it's going to be tough sledding for this Auburn offense as it has all year. Um, I think that playing at home definitely, gives them a better chance. And if it was in Tuscaloosa, I would say Alabama. I would be really not nervous at all. Um, I was very nervous last week. Recently, my nerves have kind of calmed down a little bit as I've kind of looked at this game more of just kind of logically instead of emotionally. And I know I can't do that because it's the plains and you never know what's going to happen. And I always walk in there like a jackass, confident, yelling, roll tide. And, I'm not the most popular person down in Jordan Hare ever whenever I'm there. And we'll see if I make my way into the stadium. I haven't decided yet this year. But for me, I think that Alabama is going to go in there with a mission, like a team on a mission, and they know exactly what they have to do. Will the pressure be too much? I don't think so. I think Alabama's got a group of great leaders on their team that are really going to focus and batten down the hatches, and I think Alabama gets a kind of a signature win in a way, if you can call it that. And I think Alabama wins this game 28-13.
Yeah, I think that I do think Alabama pulls away in this. I think it can be close for a while, but I don't think it's going to come down to the nitty gritty like the last two have. I think a lot of people are expecting that. And as you know in the sport, a lot of times the thing that you expect is not what happens. And
Yes.
I don't want to fall into that trap here. And so, and this is even as an Alabama fan, like just looking at this game completely objectively, when so many people are fixated on an outcome that's happened in the past and it's going to repeat itself again. Sometimes, yes, history repeats itself, but more often than not in this sport, especially in this month, on this weekend, what you don't expect is what ends up happening. You know, Michigan going into the shoe and beating Ohio State last year.
Nobody
That's
can
the
saw it coming.
shit that you see this week. Or would you lose a parlay on that last year?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I had Ohio State in my parlay, but I did not see that one coming. Let's put it that way.
I think they're like 21.5 point favorites or some crazy shit like that.
I might have had Michigan on the points. I can't, but I know it. I know I didn't pick them to win. That's all I know.
Yeah, that was. I feel like there will be one shocking result like that this weekend. I mean, there always is. There's always one that you don't see coming from anywhere, and maybe it's one of those that we picked tonight, but it's all of them are all these games. Like I would think that the most shocking outcome of all of them that we picked would be if Georgia Tech beat Georgia.
Yeah.
That's probably because if you told me that State beat Ole Miss, wouldn't be all that surprised. Texas, obviously, Vandy being Tennessee, even Michigan being Ohio State. Michigan's owned Ohio State this decade, so if it only happened, wouldn't be surprised. We know what's happened to Alabama, Jordan Hare sometimes, and so if you told me Auburn won, wouldn't be all that surprised either. But that if I had to pick one, it would probably be Tech being Georgia. But what would you say?
I think that for me, the most surprising one would be Mississippi State beating Ole Miss, simply because I just watched Mississippi State get beat down by Missouri a couple weeks ago. I know they've played a lot of teams close at home already, though. But Georgia Tech beating Georgia would be a very shocking one as well. And I think when you look, obviously Auburn beating Bama would be pretty shocking, but
Yeah,
like you said, it had happened before, and everybody knows that. But even when you play a bad Auburn team on the road, that there's some type of magic of Jordan Hare. So for me, I'm going to go with Ole Miss and Mississippi State as the most shocking result, simply because of just the situation of both of those teams.
that's fair. And Mississippi State has kind of declined over these past. Like there
Right.
was a high point for this team at one point. I think that the floor just kind of fell in. Like when you're in some of those tight overtime games and the same thing keeps happening, the Tennessee one, the Texas one, like they were so close with so many of those. Pulled off against Arkansas, that was great. But in so many of those games, Mississippi State fell short. You had the triumphant win over Arizona State, that was great. But more often than not, they end up dropping these games, and it just kills the morale after a while. And so, Georgia went in there, beat the shit out of them, and ever since then, we saw the Missouri result happen. I could see Ole Miss doing the same thing. But yeah, seeing Mississippi State pull off would be rather shocking, just given the dynamics of both those teams. And I completely agree.
Yeah, and I think just the matchup is pretty bad for Mississippi State as well. And I think that some of these other teams match up. Like I think that that um, that Georgia Tech doesn't match up horribly against Georgia, like just in terms of player on player, man to man.
That's
So
fair.
I could see them. I could see them, kind of giving Georgia some problems. So that's my only reasoning for the Mississippi State and Ole Miss game.
That's very understandable. But we've got a hell of a weekend ahead of us here.
Yes.
I'm pumped. It's rivalry weekend. It's weird the way that these seasons are structured. This used to kind of feel like the ends, but now it just feels like the beginning of the whole party here. And so we are just getting started in the world of college football. We're gonna have an electric weekend. I always love rivalry week. I'm fucking pumped already, and can't wait to get this party started and continue to start the back nine, as you like to call it now.
And just for any of the viewers as well, um, this has been a longer stream, and but we've got a lot more special streams coming up. Obviously, we have conference championship weekend, the playoff drawing, and kind of bracket predictions, and recaps of all the games as well, and predictions for all the games as well. So stick with us, and this is going to be a long month and a half, but we're going to do our best to try and get y'all accurate and predictive information. And honestly, if y'all have any other games that we missed that you might want to hear something on, just drop them in an Instagram comment, send a DM, something, because I ain't got shit to do.
No, I mean this week either. I mean, got a lot going on here right now, but
Right.
if I get a free moment and can do something, put a prediction together, I would be very happy to put a short together as well. So those lines are always open for questions as always as well. But yeah, a lot of exciting content to come, and the grind is really just starting to begin, and I'm really excited about that.
Yes, sir. You're right on. You're spot on the money with that one.
Hell yeah. Well, it was great having you on, Luke. Got an exciting weekend coming up, and thank you all for watching. Have a great day, and we'll be seeing you right back in the spot next Tuesday for what I expect to be a very controversial, very interesting CFP rankings reveal after some of these results this weekend, which I expect will be a little dicey. And then so we got that one, and then Selection Sunday. So
Yeah, it's next week will be the real, like, we'll give a kind of a clear picture of what we're getting.
oh yeah, it's the movie script will be coming together when we meet again next week.
That's right.
Well, thank you all for watching. Have a great day and enjoy the weekend.